The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep rumble. Admiral Kang Deho walked through them with steady steps. His dark uniform bore the simple blue and red flag of Earth. Behind him came his officers. Captain Yoon Mirai kept her eyes forward. Lieutenant Park Jin-woo carried a datapad filled with battle reports. The chamber was in chaos. Delegates from dozens of species filled the air with panicked voices. Some spoke in clicks and whistles. Others used mechanical translators that buzzed with electronic words. The smell of fear chemicals from various alien races mixed in the recycled air. "The Vorthak have taken the Kalarian system," announced the tall, gray-skinned Altarian delegate. His forearms shook as he spoke. 7 billion souls consumed in 3 days. Their bioships grow stronger with each world they devour. A insect-like Chiron delegate clicked rapidly. The translator box around its neck spoke in flat tones. "Our homeworlds are being evacuated. The outer colonies are lost. We must establish defensive lines at least 50 light-years behind current positions." Admiral Kang listened without expression. He had seen the reports. The Vorthak Empire swept through space like a plague. Their ships were not built but grown. They fed on entire planets to create more of themselves. Every victory made them stronger. The Zephyrian ambassador floated in its water tank. Bubbles rose as it spoke. "The mathematical models are clear. Fighting the Vorthak leads to extinction. Retreat is the only logical choice." "How many systems have been abandoned?" asked Captain Yoon Mirai quietly. Lieutenant Park Jin-woo checked his datapad. 47 systems evacuated in the last month. 200 million beings relocated to core worlds. The refugee fleet stretch across 3 sectors. The council chamber's main screen showed the current battle lines. Red markers indicated Vorthak-controlled space. It grew larger each day like a spreading infection. Blue markers showed evacuation routes. Green markers showed defensive positions far from the fighting. There were no markers showing counterattacks. No arrows pointing toward enemy space. The entire galaxy was in full retreat. "The humans must understand," said the Altarian delegate, turning toward Admiral Kang. "This is not cowardice. This is survival. The Vorthak are unlike anything we have faced before. They do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They consume everything." Admiral Kang stepped forward. His boots clicked on the polished floor. "We have read the reports." "Then you see why evacuation is necessary," said the Chiron delegate. "Your colonies in the Outer Rim should be abandoned immediately. Your people can be relocated to safer sectors." "Safer for how long?" asked Captain Yoon Mirai. The chamber fell quiet. The question hung in the air like smoke. Dr. Lee Soo-min moved to the front of the human delegation. She was small compared to the towering aliens around her. Her voice was clear and steady. "The Vorthak expansion follows a pattern. They consume resources to create new bioships. Each world they take makes their fleet larger. Each victory feeds the next attack." She activated her portable projector. Images of Vorthak bioships filled the air above the delegates. The vessels looked like enormous sea creatures adapted for space, tentacles longer than city blocks, armor that pulsed like living skin, weapons that fired streams of acid. "Running away only delays the inevitable," Dr. Lee continued. "They will consume the Outer Rim, then the middle colonies, then the core worlds. Retreat buys time, but solves nothing." "What else can we do?" demanded the Zephyrian ambassador. "Their technology is beyond our understanding. Their ships heal damage faster than we can inflict it. They have destroyed every fleet sent against them, every fleet that fought defensively," said Admiral Kang. The alien delegates looked at each other with confusion. Some species had no concept for what the human was suggesting. "You propose offense?" asked the Altarian delegate. "Against an enemy that has crushed 17 civilizations?" Lieutenant Park Jin-woo stepped forward with his datapad. "Our analysis shows the Vorthak have one weakness. They have never faced sustained aggression. Every species they encounter either flees or fights defensive battles. They expect their enemies to protect their own worlds. Because that is logical, clicked the Chiron delegate angrily. Protecting your home is the first rule of survival. Sometimes, the best defense is making sure your enemy cannot attack, said Captain Yoon Mirai. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates spoke over each other in dozens of languages. The translation systems struggled to keep up. Words like impossible and suicide filled the air in various alien tongues. Admiral Kang waited for the noise to die down. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly through the chamber. The evacuation fleet's report Vorthak supply lines stretched, thin. Their bioships require constant feeding. Their rapid expansion has created vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities that no sane species would try to exploit, said the Altarian delegate. The Vorthak home systems are protected by thousands of bioships. It would be military suicide. Maybe, said Admiral Kang, but right now, suicide missions look better than slow extinction. Dr. Lee Suman brought up new data on her projector. The bioships show interesting properties. They are individuals but also connected. Damage to their breeding centers affects the entire network. They are strong, but not invulnerable. Even if that is true, said the Zephyrian ambassador, the cost would be enormous. Entire fleets would be lost attacking their core systems. Entire civilizations are being lost by running away, replied Captain Yoon Mirai. The debates continued for hours. Alien species spoke of defensive perimeters and fallback positions. They discussed evacuation schedules and refugee processing. They planned for a long retreat deeper into known space. The humans listened, but did not join these discussions. Instead, Lieutenant Park Jin-woo quietly updated star charts on his datapad. He marked hyperspace routes that led toward Vorthak space, not away from it. He calculated fuel requirements and travel times to enemy systems. As the session ended, delegates began filing out. Most headed toward the evacuation coordination centers. They would spend the night planning the next retreat, the next system to abandon, the next world to sacrifice to buy a few more weeks of safety. Admiral Kang gathered his officers near the chamber's main display. The tactical map still showed red Vorthak territory expanding like a cancer. Soon it would reach systems. With billions of inhabitants, sir, said Lieutenant Park Jin-woo quietly. The fleet commanders are requesting orders. Do we join the evacuation? Admiral Kang studied the map for a long moment. Red markers showed enemy strength. Blue markers showed fleeing refugee columns. Green markers showed defensive positions that would be overrun within months. He pointed directly at the center of Vorthak space. Send word to all human battle groups. Set course for the heart of their empire. Captain Yoon Mirai nodded. Rules of engagement? Find them. Fight them. Make them bleed. Admiral Kang turned toward the exit. The galaxy wants to run. Let them run. We have hunting to do. As the human delegation left the chamber, alien delegates watched them go. The humans walked with purpose toward the military docks, not toward the evacuation ships, not toward the refugee processing centers. They walked toward their warships. Dr. Lee Suman was the last to leave. She looked back at the tactical display one final time. Soon those red markers would discover what happened when prey decided to become predators. The great retreat would continue. But not for everyone. Some species ran from monsters. Others chose to become the thing that monsters feared. The hunt was about to begin. The human battle fleet moved through space like wolves approaching prey. 3 groups of warships converged at the edge of Vorthak territory, while refugee convoys streamed past them in the opposite direction. The contrast was striking. Thousands of alien ships fled toward safety, while hundreds of human vessels sailed toward certain danger. Commander Choi Hyok stood on the bridge of his reconnaissance cruiser, Busan Hunter. Through the forward windows, he watched a massive Altarian evacuation ship pass by. The vessel was 10 times larger than his cruiser and filled with millions of refugees. Its captain sent a message on open channels. Human vessel, you are traveling in the wrong direction. Vorthak forces control all space ahead. Turn back while you still can. Choi Hyok picked up the communication device. Message received, Altarian ship. Safe travels. He did not change course. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Bei Minji, studied the sensor readings. Sir, we are detecting biosignatures ahead. Large ones. The Vorthak patrol fleet is exactly where intelligence predicted. How many ships? 12 biovessels, each one the size of a battlecruiser. They are moving in a feeding formation toward the Kepler mining stations. Choi Hyuk smiled grimly. The Vorthak always use the same tactics. Find a populated system, consume everything, move to the next target. They had never learned to vary their methods because no one had ever forced them to adapt. Take us closer. I want detailed scans of their ship structures. The Busan Hunter moved deeper into enemy space. Its stealth systems were pushed to maximum power. Human engineers had designed the ship specifically for reconnaissance missions in hostile territory. Unlike the massive alien evacuation ships, human vessels were built for war. On the surface of the abandoned planet Kappa 7, Lieutenant Colonel Nam Jiho was training his marine assault teams. The planet had been evacuated 3 weeks ago when the Vorthak advance was detected. Now it served as a perfect training ground for operations in enemy space. Remember, Nam Jiho called to his soldiers, Vorthak bioships are not machines. They are living creatures the size of space stations. When you board one, you are not entering a ship, you are entering an organism. Sergeant Kim Young-ho raised his hand. Sir, how do we move through passages that might try to digest us? Nam Jiho pointed to the modified equipment his Marines carried. Dr. Shin has developed new cutting tools. They can slice through organic armor and living tissue. Your suits have been treated with chemicals that make Vorthak digestive acids harmless. The training facility had been built to simulate the inside of a bioship. Walls pulsed like giant arteries. The floor felt spongy under the Marines' feet. Strange liquids dripped from the ceiling. It was designed to be as disturbing as possible. The key is speed, Nam Jiho continued. Get in fast. Find the nerve centers. Disable them before the ship's immune system can respond. Then get out before the whole organism dies and takes you with it. His Marines practiced moving through the organic corridors. They learned to identify vital systems by their appearance. A pulsing chamber might be a heart. A branching network of tubes could be a nervous system. Everything in a bioship served multiple purposes. Private Lee Soo-jin emerged from a training tunnel covered in artificial biofluid. Sir, this is the strangest thing we have ever trained for. Strange works in our favor, replied Nam Jiho. The Vorthak expect their enemies to be afraid of their biotechnology. They do not expect soldiers who have trained specifically to fight inside living organisms. Meanwhile, in the outer system, Captain Kim Sora piloted her experimental stealth frigate Soul's Edge through a field of space debris. The wreckage came from a recent battle between Vorthak bioships and a fleeing alien defense force. The alien ships had been completely destroyed. The bioships had consumed the wreckage to fuel their growth. Captain, said her navigation officer, Ensign Park Dongjun, we are picking up Vorthak biosignatures moving through this system. 3 large vessels approaching from the inner planets. Kim Sora studied her tactical display. The Vorthak ships moved in a pattern she had not seen before. Instead of the usual feeding formation, they were spread out like a search pattern. They are looking for something, she said quietly. Looking for what? Us. They know someone is watching them. This was new information. Previous reports suggested the Vorthak never bothered with reconnaissance. They simply consumed everything in their path without concern for hidden enemies. If they were now actively searching for threats, it meant they were learning to adapt. Kim Sora activated her ship's deepest stealth mode. Soul's Edge became almost invisible to sensors. Only the faintest energy signature remained. The ship drifted through space like a piece of debris. One of the Vorthak bioships passed within a few kilometers. Through her viewing port, Kim Sora could see its surface in detail. The organic armor rippled like skin. Tentacles as thick as subway tunnels moved along its sides. Weapon ports opened and closed like breathing. Captain, whispered her sensor operator, I am detecting something interesting. The bioship is leaking energy from several damaged sections, battle damage from previous fights. Kim Sora made careful notes. The ship is hurt but still operational. That means their regeneration systems have limits. More importantly, added Ensign Park, it means they can be hurt at all. Back at the main fleet position, Dr. Shin Yongho worked in his laboratory, aboard the command carrier Sol Rising. The ship's workshops had been converted into weapons development centers. Human engineers and scientists worked around the clock to create tools for fighting bioships. The problem, Dr. Shin explained to his team, is that conventional weapons are designed to destroy machines. Explosives break metal, energy weapons melt circuits, but bioships heal from this kind of damage. He held up a new type of ammunition round. These projectiles contain biological agents. Instead of just causing damage, they disrupt the ship's healing processes. The wound cannot close. The damage spreads like an infection. Dr. Wu Hiejin, his lead researcher, examined the projectile under a microscope. The biological agent targets the specific proteins found in Vorthak tissue. It should be harmless to other species, but deadly to their bioships. How deadly? Asked Dr. Shin. In laboratory tests, a single round caused complete system failure. In our Vorthak tissue samples within hours. Dr. Shin smiled. Perfect. Begin mass production immediately. The first test came sooner than expected. Commander Choi Hyok's reconnaissance mission encountered a Vorthak patrol group while gathering intelligence near the Tau Ceti system. 3 bioships detected the Busan Hunter despite its stealth systems. All stop, ordered Choi Hyok. Battle. Stations. His crew looked at him with surprise. Sir, should we not retreat? We are outnumbered 3-1. Retreat was never the plan. Choi Hyok activated his weapon systems. Load the new biological ammunition. Target the lead bioship's central mass. The first shots struck the Vorthak vessel's organic armor. Instead of bouncing off or causing minor damage, the biological agents began their work immediately. Black spots appeared on the ship's surface where the projectiles hit. The spots grew larger like spreading stains. Sir, reported his weapons officer, the bioship is losing structural integrity around the impact points. Its healing systems appear to be failing. The Vorthak ship writhed in space like a wounded animal. Its tentacles lashed out randomly. Its weapon ports discharged without targeting properly. Within minutes, the massive vessel began to break apart. The other 2 ships moved to attack but hesitated when they saw what happened to their companion. This was not normal battle damage. This was something they had never encountered before. Commander Choi Hyok pressed his advantage. Continue firing. Let them see what happens when they meet enemies who fight back. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, 2 Vorthak bioships were dead, and the third was fleeing deeper into their territory. The Busan Hunter had taken some damage but remained operational. Send a message to Admiral Kang, ordered Choi Hyok. Tell him the new weapons work better than expected. Also tell him the Vorthak can learn fear. Throughout human space, the word spread quickly. The first successful engagement against Vorthak forces had been won by a single reconnaissance ship. The bioships could be killed. The enemy could be hurt. More importantly, they could be made afraid. Admiral Kang Daeho received the reports aboard. His flagship, Captain Yoon Mirai, stood beside him as they studied the tactical data. The outer scouts are reporting similar results, she said. Small engagements across 6 systems. The Vorthak are pulling back their patrol groups. They are becoming cautious. Admiral Kang nodded. Caution is the first step toward defeat. An enemy who hesitates can be destroyed. Behind them, the main fleet continued its advance toward Vorthak space. Refugee ships still passed them going the other way, but now some of the alien captains sent different messages. Instead of warnings about certain death, they sent messages of hope. For the first time in months, someone was making the Vorthak retreat. The hunt had begun in earnest. The wreckage of a dead world floated in space like broken bones. 3 months ago, the planet Kepler-9 had been home to 50 million Zephyrian colonists. Now it was nothing but chunks of organic matter and twisted metal drifting in the dark. The Vorthak had consumed everything, turning a living world into fuel for their war machine. Admiral Kang Deho stood in the observation deck of his flagship, Sol Rising, and watched the debris field. His engineers were busy collecting samples of Vorthak biomatter from the remains. What the enemy saw as waste, human scientists saw as opportunity. "Sir," said Colonel Park Yunji, approaching with a datapad, "the forward base is operational. We have established a command center inside the largest piece of debris. Our stealth generators are using the organic material to mask our energy signatures." The idea had been simple but effective. Instead of fighting the Vorthak's biological technology, the humans decided to use it. The remains of consumed worlds provided perfect camouflage. Vorthak sensors were designed to ignore their own organic waste. They never expected enemies to hide inside it. "How many ships can the base support?" asked Admiral Kang. "Up to 50 vessels at a time. The biomatter provides both concealment and raw materials for repairs. Dr. Shin's team has learned to process Vorthak organic compounds into useful resources." Admiral Kang nodded. "Begin Phase 2 of the operation. I want strike teams hitting their supply lines within the week." The human strategy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. While other species retreated to defensive positions, humans advanced deeper into enemy space and built forward bases from the remains of Vorthak victims. It was aggressive, dangerous, and completely unexpected. Captain Yoon Mirai prepared for another deep strike mission. Her ship, Daegu Thunder, had been modified with the latest biological warfare systems. The hull was coated with compounds that made it appear dead to Vorthak sensors. The weapons were loaded with Dr. Lee Suman's improved biological agents. "Captain," said her tactical officer, Lieutenant Han Sung-woo, "we have identified a Vorthak breeding facility in the Proxima system. Intelligence indicates it produces approximately 100 new bioships per month." Yoon Mirai studied the target information. The breeding facility was a massive organic structure attached to Proxima's sun like a parasite. It fed directly on solar energy to fuel rapid biological growth. Destroying it would significantly slow Vorthak expansion in this sector. "What are the defenses?" 24 Guardian bioships in orbital patterns. Each one is larger than our heavy cruisers. The facility itself has organic weapon systems integrated into its structure. "Numbers do not matter," said Yoon Mirai. "We are not there to fight a fair battle." Dr. Lee Suman worked in her laboratory aboard the medical ship Busan Hope. She had made an important discovery about Vorthak biology that changed everything. The enemy's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. The individual bioships are connected through quantum biological links, she explained to her research team. When one ship learns something, all ships in its network gain that knowledge instantly. This allows perfect coordination but creates a vulnerability. Dr. Jung Min-ho, her lead researcher, examined the quantum signatures under a microscope. "If we can disrupt the biological quantum field, we can sever the connections between ships." "Better than that," said Dr. Lee with excitement. "We can send false information through the network, make them think their own ships are enemies, turn their coordination against them." The implications were enormous. The Vorthak's hive mind intelligence could be weaponized against itself. Instead of perfect unity, they could be given perfect confusion. Meanwhile, Sergeant Major Han Dong-hyun led his boarding teams through the corridors of a captured Vorthak bioship. The vessel had been disabled during the last engagement and was being used for training purposes. His Marines needed to learn how to fight inside a living organism. "Remember," he called to his soldiers, "everything you see is alive. The walls can attack you. The floor might try to digest your boots. The air itself could be toxic." Private Ko Ji-won emerged from a pulsing tunnel covered in biofluid. "Sergeant Major, how do we tell the difference between a weapon and an organ?" "Simple. Rule," replied Han Dong-hyun. "If it moves toward you, shoot it. If it moves away from you, chase it and then shoot it." The bioship's interior was like a nightmare version of a human body. Corridors pulsed like arteries. Chambers expanded and contracted like lungs. Strange liquids flowed through transparent tubes like blood vessels. Everything was wet, warm, and alive. "The key to boarding operations," Han Dong-hyun explained, is speed and brutality. Get in fast, cause maximum damage to vital systems, and get out before the ship's immune system kills you. His Marines practiced with the new biological cutting tools. The weapons could slice through organic armor like paper. More importantly, they infected wounds with agents that prevented healing. Every cut became a permanent weakness. The first major test of human tactics came at the Battle of Wolf 359. A Vorthak fleet of 30 bioships was consuming the system's asteroid mining facilities. The organic vessels moved in their standard feeding formation, completely focused on their task of consumption. They never detected the human strike force until it was too late. Captain Kim Sora led the stealth attack from her frigate, Soul's Edge. Her ship and 12 others emerged from the asteroid field where they had been hiding. The Vorthak bioships were caught completely by surprise. "All ships, engage targets at will," ordered Kim Sora. "Remember, we are not here to win a battle. We are here to teach them fear." The human ships opened fire with biological weapons. Instead of trying to destroy the bioships outright, they infected them with agents designed to cause slow, painful death. The Vorthak vessels began to writhe and convulse as their own biological systems turned against them. Dr. Lee Suman's quantum disruption weapon was tested for the first time. The device sent false signals through the Vorthak biological network. Suddenly, bioships that had worked in perfect coordination for millions of years began attacking each other. The confusion was total. Bioships fired on their own allies. Coordination broke down completely. What should have been an organized response became chaos and friendly fire. Within hours, the entire Vorthak fleet was either dead or fleeing. The human strike force had suffered minimal casualties. More importantly, they had proven that the enemy's greatest strength could be turned into their greatest weakness. News of the victory spread across the galaxy, faster than the speed of light. For the first time since the Vorthak expansion began, an entire enemy fleet had been destroyed. The aliens who had been fleeing in terror began to whisper about hope. Admiral Kang Daiho received reports of similar victories across 6 systems. Human forces were not just surviving contact with the Vorthak, they were systematically destroying them using tactics no one had ever tried before. "Sir," said Colonel Park Yunji, "the Vorthak are beginning to change their behavior. They are becoming more cautious. Some fleets have been observed retreating rather than engaging our forces." "Fear is a powerful teacher," replied Admiral Kang. "They are learning that not all prey runs away." Captain Yoon Mirai returned from her mission to the Proxima breeding facility with incredible news. The facility had been completely destroyed. More importantly, her team had captured intact samples of Vorthak breeding technology. "The biological samples show us how they reproduce," she reported. "They consume worlds and transform the matter into new bioships through a process that takes approximately 6 months. But the process can be disrupted." Dr. Shin Young-ho examined the samples with growing excitement. "If we understand their breeding process, we can create weapons specifically designed to target their reproduction centers, stop them from creating new ships entirely." The war was changing. For months, the galaxy had watched in horror as the Vorthak consumed everything in their path. Now, for the first time, the tide was turning. The predators were becoming prey. But the humans were just getting started. Admiral Kang had much bigger plans for the Vorthak Empire. Plans that would make the galaxy remember why humanity was different from every other species. While others ran from monsters, humans had decided to become the thing that monsters feared most. Intelligence Officer Commander Lim Soo-young floated in a tank of synthetic biofluid aboard the research vessel, Incheon Pioneer. Her body was covered in artificial Vorthak tissue that had been grown in the ship's laboratories. To enemy sensors, she would appear to be nothing more than floating organic debris. "Remember," said Dr. Lee Suman as she made final adjustments to the biosuit, "you will have exactly 4 hours before the tissue begins to break down. After that, your human biology will be detectable." Commander Lim tested the suit's movement systems. The artificial muscles responded like real Vorthak tissue. The breathing apparatus filtered oxygen from the biofluid exactly like Vorthak respiratory organs. It was disgusting but effective. "What exactly am I looking for inside the command organism?" "Neural," Pathway maps, replied Dr. Lee. The Vorthak network has a central coordination system. If we can find it, we can target it. One precise strike could disable their entire empire. The mission was the most dangerous infiltration attempt in human military history. Commander Lim would allow herself to be captured by a Vorthak bioship, then pretend to be organic matter while searching for their central command systems. If discovered, she would die horribly. The bio readings show a Vorthak command vessel approaching, reported the ship's sensor operator. It is scanning the debris field for useful organic material. Commander Lim entered the airlock. Begin the deception protocol. Make this look like a real attack. The Incheon Pioneer fired its weapons at empty space while transmitting fake damage reports. To Vorthak sensors, it would appear that the ship was being destroyed. Commander Lim was ejected with other fake debris, just as the bioship arrived to investigate. The Vorthak vessel consumed everything in the debris field, including Commander Lim. She found herself inside a massive organic storage chamber along with tons of processed biological matter. The walls pulsed with the creature's heartbeat. Strange liquids dripped from the ceiling. Using her biosuit's camouflage systems, Commander Lim began to explore. The interior of the command ship was unlike the smaller bio-vessels her Marines had boarded. This creature was the size of a space station and infinitely more complex. She discovered that the ship was not just a vessel, but a living computer. Neural pathways ran through every wall and floor. Biological circuits processed information at incredible speeds. The entire organism was dedicated to coordination and control. Most importantly, she found what appeared to be a quantum communication center. Organic structures that looked like giant brain cells were connected to arrays of biological quantum transmitters. This was how the Vorthak coordinated across vast distances of space. Commander Lim activated her recording equipment and began mapping the neural pathways. The data she collected would be invaluable for targeting the enemy's command structure. But she also discovered something unexpected. The communication logs showed coordinates for a system at the very heart of Vorthak space. The quantum transmissions all led to a single location called the prime source. According to the data, this was not just their capital, but the origin point of their entire species. Meanwhile, General Kwon Tae-hyung was consolidating human forces for the largest military operation in their history. Reports from across the front lines showed that the Vorthak were beginning to retreat from outer systems. For the first time, the enemy was showing signs of fear. "Sir," said his chief of staff, Colonel Yoon Dong-min, "we have received requests for support from 17 different alien species. They want to join our offensive operations." General Kwon studied the tactical displays. The Vorthak Empire covered hundreds of star systems. Even with alien support, attacking their home territory would require enormous resources and perfect coordination. What kinds of support are they offering? The Altarians want to provide supply ships and medical support. The Chirans offer their engineering expertise for ship modifications. Even the Zephyrians are willing to share intelligence data. This was unprecedented. Species that had been fleeing in terror just months ago now wanted to join the fight. The human example had inspired the galaxy to find courage they never knew they possessed. "Accept their offers," decided General Kwon, "but make it clear that this will be a human-led operation. We do not fight by committee." Captain Kim Sora returned from her deepest reconnaissance mission with disturbing news. Her stealth frigate had penetrated further into Vorthak space than any previous human vessel. What she found changed everything. "The Vorthak home systems are not what we expected," she reported to Admiral Kang aboard the flagship. "They are not just defended by bioships. The planets themselves have been converted into defensive weapons." Her holographic displays showed images of worlds that had been completely transformed. Instead of normal planets with surfaces of rock and metal, these were organic spheres covered in weapons and sensors. Entire moons had been converted into massive bioships. How many systems like this? At least 12 that we detected, all connected by organic conduits that stretch between planets. The entire region has been converted into one massive living weapon. Admiral Kang studied the data with growing concern. The scale of what they were facing was beyond anything they had imagined. The Vorthak had not just conquered their home systems. They had consumed them and rebuilt them as extensions of themselves. There is more, continued Captain Kim. Our long-range sensors detected something at the center of their space, a structure attached directly to their home star. It appears to be feeding on the sun's energy. The prime source, said Admiral Kang quietly. Sir, intelligence has been intercepting Vorthak communications. They all reference a prime source at the center of their empire. It appears to be their original organism, the parent of their entire species. The implications were staggering. If the prime source was the origin point of all Vorthak life, destroying it might cripple their entire civilization. But reaching it would require fighting through the most heavily defended region of space in the known galaxy. Dr. Lee Suman worked frantically in her laboratory to develop weapons capable of targeting the prime source. Based on Commander Lim's intelligence data, she had discovered the key to Vorthak biology. The entire species is connected through quantum biological links, she explained to her research team. Every individual bioship, every organism, every weapon system is part of a single massive neural network. The prime source is the central processor. What happens if the central processor is destroyed? Asked Dr. Young Minho. Based on our analysis, the entire network would collapse. Billions of individual organisms would suddenly be cut off from the hive mind that gives them purpose and coordination. Dr. Lee held up a new type of biological weapon. Unlike their previous agents that targeted individual ships, this one was designed to attack neural pathways themselves. It would not just kill Vorthak organisms, it would sever their connection to the network. How do we deliver something like this to the prime source? That, said Dr. Lee grimly, is the problem we still need to solve. The weapon would need to be deployed from inside the prime source itself. Based on Commander Lim's data, the creature was the size of a moon and surrounded by thousands of defensive bioships. Getting close enough for deployment would be nearly impossible. Admiral Kang called a meeting of his senior commanders to plan the assault on the Vorthak home systems. The conference room aboard his flagship was filled with the best military minds humanity had to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we have an opportunity to end this war with a single decisive strike. But it will require sacrifices that I cannot ask you to make. Captain Yoon Mirai was the first to speak. Sir, with respect, you are not asking us to make sacrifices. We are volunteering to make them. Commander Choi Hyuk nodded agreement. The entire galaxy is watching to see if we can do what everyone said was impossible. Failure is not an option. General Kwon Tae-hyung brought up the tactical projections. Based on our analysis, we will need to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. The Vorthak must not be allowed to concentrate their defenses around the prime source. What about our alien allies? Asked Colonel Park Yoonji. They will provide support and diversionary attacks, replied Admiral Kang. But the final assault on the prime source must be carried out by human forces alone. We cannot ask other species to undertake a mission that even we consider suicidal. The planning continued for hours. Every detail was examined and re-examined. Supply lines, hyperspace routes, timing coordinates, backup plans. The operation would be the most complex military action ever attempted. As the meeting ended, Admiral Kang looked around the room at his commanders. These were the people who would either save the galaxy or die trying. There would be no middle ground. The fleet will depart in 72 hours, he announced. Make your preparations. Send your personal messages. We are about to attempt something that will either make us heroes or martyrs. Captain Kim Sora was assigned to lead the final assault team that would penetrate the prime source itself. Her stealth frigate would be modified with the most advanced camouflage systems ever built. The mission was simple in concept but nearly impossible in execution. You understand, said Admiral Kang as he briefed her personally, that this is likely a one-way mission. Even if you succeed in delivering the weapon, the human armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vorthak home system and faced a sight that defied imagination. The star itself was wrapped in organic tentacles that stretched millions of kilometers into space. Massive biostructures, fed directly on the solar plasma like parasitic worms drinking blood from a giant heart. Admiral Kang Daeho stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his sensor displays fill with enemy contacts. Thousands of bioships moved in complex patterns around their corrupted sun. These were not the patrol vessels they had fought before. These creatures were the size of cities and covered in weapon systems that glowed with hostile energy. "Sir," reported Captain Yoon Mirai from her position at the tactical station, "long-range scans show the prime source attached to the north pole of the star. The structure appears to be approximately 8,000 kilometers in diameter. Larger than host moons," muttered General Kwon Tae-hyung. "How are we supposed to penetrate something that size?" The prime source was a nightmare vision of organic architecture. Its surface was covered in weapon clusters and sensor arrays that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Massive tentacles anchored it to the star's surface, drawing energy directly from nuclear fusion reactions. This was not just the Vorthak capital, it was their god-made flesh. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Kang," he announced over the communication channels. "Begin the assault. Remember, we are not here to win a battle. We are here to end a war." The largest space battle in galactic history began with a coordinated strike by 300 human warships. Their alien allies attacked Vorthak defensive positions throughout the system, while the main human force drove straight toward the prime source like a spear thrust at the heart of an empire. The Vorthak defenders responded with overwhelming force. Bioships the size of battleships emerged from organic docking bays hidden throughout the system. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as asteroids revealed themselves and opened fire. The space around the corrupted star became a web of energy, beams and biological projectiles. Major Seo Jin-won led the specialized assault teams that would fight their way through the prime source's outer defenses. His soldiers had trained for months to operate inside massive biological structures. Now they would put that training to the ultimate test. "Remember," he called to his troops as their boarding ships approached the prime source, "we are not just fighting an enemy fortress. We are fighting a living creature that knows we are coming and wants to digest us alive." The boarding ships were custom-built for this mission. Their hulls were designed to penetrate organic armor using biological cutting agents. Their life support systems could function in the acidic atmosphere inside Vorthak organisms. Most importantly, they carried Dr. Lee Suman's neural disruption weapon. The prime source's immune system responded to the human intrusion like a body fighting an infection. Organic antibodies the size of fighter craft swarmed around the boarding ships. Internal passages sealed themselves to trap the invaders. Digestive acids flooded compartments in an attempt to dissolve the intruders. But the humans had prepared for biological warfare on this scale. Their suits were treated with compounds that made them resistant to Vorthak digestive systems. Their weapons fired ammunition specifically designed to disrupt organic healing processes. Every piece of equipment had been built to function inside a hostile living organism. Captain Kim Sora piloted her stealth frigate Soul's Edge through the chaos of the space battle toward her target deep inside the prime source. Her ship had been modified with the most advanced biological camouflage ever developed. To Vorthak sensors, she appeared to be a piece of their own tissue floating through the creature's circulatory system. "Captain," said her navigator, Ensign Park Dongjun, "we are approaching the central neural cluster. The biological activity is incredible. This thing has the processing power of an entire planet." Through her viewing port, Kim Sora could see the prime source's brain center. Massive organic structures pulsed with bioelectric activity. Neural pathways the size of highways carried information at the speed of light. This was the mind that controlled an empire spanning hundreds of worlds. "Beginning final approach," she announced to her crew. "Remember, once we deploy the weapon, we have approximately 10 minutes before the creature's death convulsions destroy everything in this region of space." Meanwhile, on the surface of the prime source, Major Seo Jin-won's assault teams fought through organic corridors that writhed and twisted around them. The walls secreted acids that could dissolve metal in seconds. The floor tried to trap their feet with sticky biological adhesives. The ceiling dripped digestive enzymes that burned through their protective suits. "Push forward," ordered Seo Jin-won as his soldiers cut through a wall of living tissue with their biological weapons. The neural disruption device must reach the central chamber. Sergeant Major Han Donghyun led the point team through passages that resembled the inside of a giant digestive system. Everything was wet, warm, and alive. Strange organic structures pulsed with alien purpose. The air itself was thick with biological particles that made breathing difficult even with filtration systems. "Sir," called Private Kojiwon, "the passage ahead is sealed with some kind of organic membrane. It looks like a giant sphincter muscle." "Then we open it the hard way," replied Han Dong-yun, raising his biological cutting weapon. "Remember, everything in here is alive, and everything alive can be killed." The assault teams carved their way deeper into the prime source like antibodies fighting through a massive infection. Behind them, the creature's immune system sealed passages and flooded chambers with defensive chemicals. Ahead of them, new obstacles appeared as the organism adapted to their presence. In the space battle outside, Admiral Kang coordinated the most complex military operation in human history. His ships fought desperate holding actions against Vorthak defenders, while the assault teams penetrated the prime source. Every minute of delay cost lives, but retreat was not an option. "Sir," reported Colonel Park Yoonji, "we are taking heavy casualties. The Vorthak are throwing everything they have at us. Some of our ships are reporting that bioweapons are actually trying to board them." Admiral Kang watched as massive organic tentacles reached out from bioships to grab human vessels like predatory sea creatures. The enemy was not content to simply destroy their attackers. They wanted to consume them and add their biomass to the Vorthak collective. "All ships maintain formation," he ordered. "We hold the line until the assault teams complete their mission, no matter what it costs." Captain Yoon Mireille fought her own battle aboard the cruiser Daegu Thunder. Her ship had been grappled by a bioship twice its size. Organic tendrils were trying to penetrate her hull while acid weapons dissolved her armor. "Engineering," she called over the intercom. "I need more power to the biological countermeasures. These things are trying to eat us alive." "Captain," replied her chief engineer, "the bioship has attached feeding tubes to our hull. It is literally trying to digest our ship while we are still inside it." Yoon Mireille activated her ship's experimental biological weapons. Instead of conventional explosives, her missiles contained Dr. Lee Suman's neural disruption agents. The projectiles penetrated the bioship's organic armor and delivered their payload directly into its nervous system. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The massive bioship began to convulse as its own neural pathways turned against it. Its grip on the human cruiser loosened as muscle spasms racked its enormous body. Within minutes, the creature was dead, killed by weapons that attacked its mind rather than its body. Deep inside the prime source, Captain Kim Sora reached her target. The central neural cluster was a chamber the size of a city filled with organic computers that pulsed with bioluminescent light. This was the brain of the Vorthak Empire, the mind that coordinated billions of individual organisms across hundreds of worlds. "Beginning weapon deployment," she announced to her crew. "All hands prepare for immediate evacuation." Dr. Lee Suman's neural disruption weapon was a masterpiece of biological warfare. Instead of destroying tissue, it attacked the quantum biological links that connected Vorthak organisms to their hive mind. Once activated, it would spread through the entire network like a virus, severing connections and leaving individual creatures isolated and confused. "Weapon armed," reported her weapons officer. "Deploying in 3, 2, 1. The device activated at the center of the prime source's brain. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the bioluminescent patterns in the organic computers began to change. The steady pulse of neural activity became erratic. The coordinated patterns of thought dissolved into chaos. Throughout the Vorthak Empire, the effect was immediate and devastating. Bioships that had fought in perfect coordination suddenly lost contact with their controlling intelligence. Creatures that had known only the unity of the hive mind found themselves alone for the first time in their existence. In the space battle around the corrupted star, the change was dramatic. Vorthak bioships stopped their coordinated attacks and began moving randomly. Some fired on their own allies. Others simply drifted in space like dead hulks. The perfect biological war machine had become a collection of confused individuals. "Sir," reported Captain Yoon Mireille with excitement in her voice, The enemy formation is collapsing. Their ships appear to be attacking each other. Admiral Kang watched as the tide of battle turned in an instant. Minutes before, his fleet had been facing overwhelming odds. Now the Vorthak defenders were destroying themselves in their confusion. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The Prime Source, feeling its neural death spreading through its massive body, began the most violent death convulsions ever recorded. The creature's tentacles lashed out at everything around it, including the star it had been feeding on. "All ships, emergency retreat," ordered Admiral Kang. "The Prime Source is destabilizing the star itself." The corrupted sun, suddenly freed from the biological structures that had been draining its energy, began to fluctuate wildly. Solar flares erupted in all directions. The stellar fusion reactions became increasingly unstable. Captain Kim Sora's escape from the dying Prime Source became a race against time itself. Her stealth frigate fought through convulsing organic passages as the massive creature began its final death throes. Behind her, the neural disruption weapon continued its work, severing the connections that had bound the Vorthak Empire together for millions of years. The biological weapon detonated, not with fire and destruction, but with cascading neural disruption that spread through the Vorthak network like a plague of silence. Across hundreds of star systems, bioships that had moved in perfect harmony for millions of years suddenly found themselves alone in the darkness of space. Admiral Kang Daeho watched from the bridge of his flagship as the massive Prime Source writhed in its death agonies. The creature that had controlled an empire spanning half the galaxy was dying, and its death screams echoed through quantum biological channels to every corner of Vorthak space. "Sir," reported his communications, "Officer Lieutenant Baek Jisoo, we are receiving reports from across the front lines. Vorthak bioships everywhere have stopped their coordinated attacks. Many are simply drifting in space without any apparent purpose." The effect was beyond anything they had hoped for. The neural disruption weapon had not just killed the Prime Source. It had severed the connections that bound the entire Vorthak species together. Billions of individual organisms suddenly found themselves cut off from the hive mind that had given their lives meaning. Captain Kim Sora fought her way out of the dying Prime Source as the massive creature's body began to collapse in on itself. Her stealth frigate Soul's Edge raced through convulsing organic passages while the walls around her dissolved into biological chaos. "Captain," called her navigator, Ensign Park Dongjun, "the creature's death convulsions are affecting the HFY star itself. Solar activity is increasing beyond safe levels." Through her forward viewport, Kim Sora could see the corrupted sun beginning to destabilize. The organic tentacles that had fed on its energy for countless years were withdrawing as the Prime Source died. Without the biological controls that had regulated its fusion reactions, the star was becoming increasingly volatile. "All power to engines," she ordered. "We need to clear the gravity well before this whole system explodes." The human fleet began its emergency evacuation as the Vorthak home system descended into chaos. Bioships drifted aimlessly through space, their crews no longer able to coordinate with each other. Some vessels fired randomly at anything that moved. Others simply powered down as if their crews had lost all will to fight. Major Seo Jin-hwan led his assault teams in a fighting retreat through the Prime Source's collapsing interior. The massive creature's immune system was still functional, but without central coordination, its responses were chaotic and self-destructive. "Move, move, move," he shouted to his soldiers as they ran through passages that were dissolving around them. "The whole structure is coming apart." Sergeant Major Han Dong-yun carried the wounded Private Ko Ji-won through corridors that pulsed with the irregular heartbeat of a dying god. Behind them, the organic walls were melting like wax as the creature's biological systems shut down one by one. "Sir," gasped Ko Ji-won, "did we really kill their entire empire?" "We killed their unity," replied Han Dong-yun as he helped her toward the evacuation point. "Without coordination, they are just animals. Dangerous animals, but not an organized threat." The evacuation ships fought through increasingly violent organic defenses as the Prime Source entered its final death throes. The creature that had been the size of a moon was now collapsing under its own weight. Massive sections broke away and drifted into space like islands of dying flesh. Captain Yoon Mirai coordinated the fleet's withdrawal from her position aboard the cruiser, Daegu Thunder. Her tactical displays showed human ships scattered across the system, all racing to escape before the star's instability reached critical levels. "Admiral," she reported to Kang Dae-ho, "all assault teams have been recovered. Captain Kim's team was the last to evacuate the prime source. The creature is completely dead." Admiral Kang nodded grimly. "Signal the fleet. Full retreat to the outer system. We need to be beyond the heliopause when that star goes critical." The corrupted sun, freed from the biological parasites that had controlled it for eons, began the most violent stellar eruption ever recorded. Solar flares reached out across millions of kilometers. The star's outer layers began to expand as fusion reactions spiraled out of control. The human fleet escaped just as the Vorthak home system was consumed by stellar fire. The star that had birthed their empire became the funeral pyre that marked its end. When the stellar explosion finally subsided, nothing remained but expanding clouds of plasma and the scattered debris of a dead civilization. News of the victory spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Species that had been fleeing in terror for months suddenly found their skies clear of the bioships that had haunted their nightmares. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed unstoppable just hours before, had simply ceased to exist. Dr. Lee Suman studied the aftermath from her laboratory aboard the medical ship Busan Hope. Long-range sensors showed Vorthak bioships throughout the galaxy, drifting without purpose or coordination. The creatures were still alive but no longer functioned as a unified threat. "The neural disruption worked exactly as predicted," she reported to Admiral Kang over the communication channels. "The individual organisms retain their basic biological functions, but have lost all connection to the hive mind. They are essentially brain damaged." This was the key to understanding what humanity had accomplished. They had not simply destroyed an enemy fleet or conquered enemy territory. They had performed the equivalent of a lobotomy on an entire galactic civilization. The Vorthak still existed as individual creatures, but they no longer existed as an empire. Colonel Park Yoonji coordinated the establishment of monitoring stations throughout former Vorthak space. Human ships moved carefully through systems that had been death traps just days before. Now they found bioships floating helplessly, their crews unable to coordinate even basic defensive actions. "Sir," she reported to Admiral Kang, "preliminary. Surveys show that most Vorthak bioships are still operational, but completely passive. A few have attempted to attack our survey teams, but they fight as individuals rather than coordinated groups. This created a new problem. The galaxy was now filled with thousands of dangerous biological weapons that had no central control. Individual bioships might still pose threats to civilian populations, but they were no longer capable of organized conquest. The solution came from an unexpected source. Captain Kim Sora, recovered from her harrowing escape from the prime source, proposed using the abandoned bioships as raw materials for reconstruction efforts. "The organic technology is incredibly advanced," she explained to the fleet commanders. "Instead of destroying these creatures, we could reprogram them for peaceful purposes, turn weapons of war into tools of reconstruction." Dr. Shin Yong-ho worked with alien scientists to develop methods for safely converting Vorthak bioships into useful infrastructure. The organic vessels could be modified to serve as space stations, manufacturing centers, or even mobile cities for displaced populations. "The irony is perfect," he said to his research team. "The same biological technology they used to consume worlds can be used to rebuild them." The process was slow and dangerous, but it worked. Bioships that had once spread terror across the galaxy were gradually converted into beneficial infrastructure. Their organic manufacturing capabilities were redirected toward construction rather than destruction. Meanwhile, the political implications of humanity's victory began to reshape galactic civilization. The Galactic Council, which had been preparing for total evacuation just months before, now faced a completely different situation. Ambassador Chen Wu-jin represented humanity at the Emergency Council session called to address the new galactic order. The chamber that had once echoed with panic now buzzed with amazement and gratitude. "The human achievement is unprecedented," declared the Altarian delegate. "In 6 months you have accomplished what our combined civilizations could not achieve in years of warfare." The Chiran delegate clicked rapidly, its translator conveying excitement rather than fear for the first time in memory. "We wish to understand human military doctrine. Your tactics appear to violate every established principle of defensive